Most people struggle to convey true value in their behavioral answers, and it's not because they don't have good stories, it's because they don't even talk about a critical component in the action section of their answers: how they tested and executed. Here's what most people do: they set up the situation, they describe the task, and then they provide front loaded actions. Specifically, they talk about the initial steps of research, planning, and conversations. Then they skip right to the results. In my opinion, nearly all strong actions fall into three buckets. So they almost always follow this order. First, what I just mentioned: research, planning, and conversations. Next is testing and execution. And last is launching, presenting, and documenting. So for today's video, we're going to focus specifically on testing and execution. And let's dive right in and start by talking about testing. Because smart and effective execution always starts with good testing. And I know what some people are thinking: testing, isn't that just for software engineers? No, everyone tests. And if you're not testing, really, you're just guessing. So, testing can look like running a small pilot before you do a full rollout, testing messaging, maybe with a small percentage of your audience, trying a new workflow with one team before scaling it to multiple teams. And it's not just operational or technical. Testing is actually interpersonal too. For example, let's say you're asked the question, very common question: tell me about a time you had a conflict. Maybe you tested different ways to communicate or work with that person. For example, you might say, after our initial conversation, I started by trying a few different ways to communicate. So I tested a few approaches. First, I set up short daily Slack check ins with specific prompts like, what's your top priority today? And is anything blocked for you? Then I shifted to weekly one to ones where I used a shared doc to structure our agenda and take notes in real time. And then finally, I tested in person syncs immediately after our stand ups where I could gauge tone and body language. This demonstrates how this person tested building a stronger relationship after their conflict. Now, let's just talk a little bit about execution. Oftentimes, this item is skipped over, or when it's mentioned, it's something general like we rolled it out or we implemented it. But interviewers will have a much easier time picturing you in the role they are hiring you for when you talk through the specific execution steps, specifically what you did and how you did it. Let's say you're answering the question, tell me about a time you improved an internal process. You might say something like, after testing, I executed by using Asana to track responsibilities across product, ops, and support. I followed this up by walking our internal team through the plan in a live training, and I shared a Loom video for reference. Next, I monitored the top issues daily and adjusted messaging where needed. And for the final execution steps, I sent out onboarding emails, provided a step by step guide, and monitored adoption through the usage of a dashboard to catch any early red flags. So, what this execution shows is strong communication skills, planning, and taking action. Let's dive a little bit deeper. What do you do when the question doesn't ask for execution? Some behavioral questions are front loaded. They sound like they're only asking about the early phases. For example, questions like, tell me about a time when you had to decide between multiple competing priorities, or describe a time when you had limited resources. How did you choose what to focus on? If you want your story to be impactful and memorable, don't stop after that initial research, planning, and conversation stage. Weave in the testing and execution, even if it's not explicitly asked for. It helps the interviewer understand why your upfront work mattered and how you look at those initial actions. And when you do this, make sure that you're being successful by mentioning the testing and execution of those items. Lastly, if you're ever unsure, well, what should I really be including in my actions? Always default to talking about what you did, supported by how you did it. Most candidates mention the what's, but the hows help your interviewer picture you in the role. Remember, the goal of behavioral questions is past performance predicts future performance, and past performance is all about your actions. If your interviewer can't picture you testing and executing, your answers will fall flat when you skip this part of your actions. And when you crush this part, they will absolutely feel your impact and want to hire you. I really hope this short video helps.